starting recording. So I'm recording this. I'll post it after we're done.
Is there some kind of attendance thing you have to do
for this thing?
For like
us right now?
Google Classroom in general?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. No, let me, since we're talking, the way attendance is working now is every teacher on Monday is going to take attendance for the week before. So we're only doing attendance Mondays, and it's for the week before. And the way we're doing it is if we interacted with any of our students at any time during that week, then we consider you present. So an interaction could be that we talked by email, that you showed up on a Zoom call, or that you turned in work, or all of the above, right? So all you guys, I consider that we've interacted this week. I wrote down everyone who showed up. Thank you for being here. And so if you get marked absent by a teacher on a Monday, it's for the previous week, and it means that you didn't interact with that teacher at all that week, or they made a mistake, right? A couple of kids asked me why I marked them absent, and then I looked into it more closely, and they had interacted with me, but it was just not the normal way, and so I didn't catch it. So anyway, for this class, almost everybody turned in everything, and so but even everybody turned in at least one thing, or talked to me. So everyone got marked present. So. Hey, and if you're
cool,
yeah, it's not a complicated thing, and that's like, you've heard with the grading that there's a no harm grading policy where we're not going to lower your grade. I mean, no teacher you can't get a lower grade than you had at the third quarter. But if you don't stay engaged with the teacher in the class, then you could lose credit, before school's out, and that would be silly, like to not get all 5 credits from this semester for English, let's say, so stay connected. That's my advice. Okay, I'm going to solve this problem now. All right, so the way this works, there's this whole class, and I can't show you what they show you, but you could look at it on the AP Classroom. The first problem is that they're sending, it's this array, it's this method. It's called get delimiters, and what they're saying you're going to do, they're sending you a string array, not an array list, but a string array that's called tokens, and it's got things in it like I'll just write it. If the delimiters were parentheses, it would have like that, and then I think it would be like x plus y here, and then the next one would be that. So these would be different individual tokens, like this thing, that thing, that thing, and maybe they broke up the x and the plus and the y too. It's fine, but the idea is there's a whole bunch of things. There are each strings inside this thing called tokens, and what we're supposed to do is return a new array list, a string array list that has only the delimiters in them, and that would be like the parentheses. And so what you have to remember, and this is why I copied this stuff here, is this class called Delimiters has these 2 variables, open delimiter and closed delimiter. You're going to have to use them down here. So first what we're going to do is make the array list that we're going to return. So we're going to say array list string. I'm going to say delimiters equals new array list string. So that's how you make an array list. And then if you want, right now you could also right here say return delimiters. That even if you were stuck on the actual AP test, you could do even just this and get some points. I'm going to move this because it bothers me where it's sitting. Because you see right here, public array list string. So it means this method is supposed to return an array list of strings. So here we made an array list of strings and we're returning it. So even if you didn't return anything in there, you could get like maybe even a point if you were stuck otherwise on the problem. Okay, so now we're going to go through every item in tokens, and if the item is either open delimiter or closed delimiter, then we're going to add it to this delimiters array list. So there's a couple ways to do this. The way I did it is this. I made a for loop. Like this. And so I'm doing, so I think they would love to see that you knew that you use dot length when you're doing a string array. If you're testing the size of an array list, you use dot size with parentheses. In fact, we're going to do that on the second problem. But right here, you're just going to do an if statement. So if tokens I dot equals, so this would be another thing they were actually getting at in testing you, that you know you have to use dot equals when you're comparing strings instead of, you know, equal equal. So we want to see if this is equal to open delimiter. Remember, open delimiter is, they talked about it all, what these variables are, because the delimiter isn't always a parentheses. It could be like several characters or something. So if the current item in tokens is equal to open delimiter, or, and then I'm going to go ahead and just copy this because it's easier than typing it all over. We're going to check if it's equal to closed delimiter. So if either of these is true, then we want to add the current thing to our array list called delimiters. So then I'm going to just write it here, delimiters.add tokens I, and a semicolon. Now, maybe because it's so scrunched in the window, I'll just put it here, but you can have it on the end of the line or you can put it on the next line. I don't need curly brackets around that because it's a single line. So if my memory serves correctly, that's all we had to do. I'm gonna look. I did it over here. Yeah. Okay. Now, their solution, I want to tell you, was slightly different. So let me just copy the whole thing, and I'll show you what they did. I'm not going to say it's better, but I just wanted you to see another way. So instead of doing a for loop with an integer I, they did for string str colon tokens. So this is an enhanced for loop, and this is a great way to do it. It's actually simpler. So then if you're doing it this way, you're saying, hey, you're recognizing that tokens is full of strings. So you're saying, I'm gonna get the strings out of tokens one at a time, put them in str. So then instead of tokens square bracket I here, you just say str dot equals open delimiter or str dot equals closed delimiter. And then if either of those is true, then we're gonna add str to our list. So anyway, just a couple of minor changes. This was the solution they provided. But they acknowledge that there's an infinite possible set of solutions. So, you know, you don't have to, I didn't do it this way either. So, any questions before I do the second part? Okay, so part B, they want us to return true if the delimiters are balanced and false otherwise. And they have a whole description of what that means. But let me, I'll show you. It's balanced if you have like an open paren. I'm gonna do an open paren, and then another open paren, and then an x plus y, and then a close paren, and a close paren. See, that's balanced. There were two rules for something being balanced. One is that there's never more closed delimiters than open delimiters. So see, right now you have one open delimiter, then you have a second open delimiter, and then when you get to here, you have one closed delimiter, so you have two open and one closed, and then finally you have two open and two closed. So this works great. An example of a fail would be if you had an open and a close and then another close and then an open. So this would fail because you're not allowed to have, you're never allowed to have more closed delimiters than you have open delimiters. You know, that wouldn't make a valid algebra statement or any kind of statement. So for this one, I made two counter variables. open count, I'm saying equals 0, and close count equals 0. And then we're going to go through this thing that they're sending to us. I don't know if that means somebody left or somebody joined us. I heard a little sound, but we'll just be okay with it. Whatever happened. I guess. Let me see. How do I do this? Yeah, okay, we're good. Okay, so we're down here. We're going to count how many opens there are, how many closes there are, and now we're going to go through all the strings that are in this array list, and we're going to count them, how many of each there are. So we can go ahead and do kind of that second method, string str colon delimiters. So this is doing a for loop where we're saying, hey, delimiters is full of strings. We're going to take them one at a time into str. And so right here we can say if str dot equals open delimiter, then we want to say open count plus plus. Oh, I left off a close paren here. I left off a delimiter. And again, it can be on the end of the line like this, or it can be on the next line. It doesn't matter. And then now we're going to check if str dot equals close delimiter, close count plus plus. So we know that it's going to be one or the other of these. They did it slightly differently, which is fine. Instead of doing two ifs, they did an else. Like this, which is okay. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's either going to be an open delimiter or it's going to be a closed delimiter. So you don't have to do two if statements, but you can. I did on my solution, but this is fine. I mean, you're allowed to assume that it's going to be either an open one or a closed one. Okay, so we're either adding one to the open or we're adding one to the close. And then the rules say that close can never be greater than the open. So you can do a check here. If close count greater than open count, then return false. Because that means it's not balanced. That'd be like this. We have open is 1, close is 2. Sorry, 1, close is now 2. Boop, we'd fail right there. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're going through all of the delimiters. We're adding one to either the open count or the close count. If close is ever more than open, we return false. And then down here, we can say if, so the last rule was when it's all done, you have to have the same number of each. So you could say if open count equal close count, return true, it means it's balanced. And then you can right here say return false. You could say else return false, but it doesn't matter because if it returned true, it stops executing the code. Yeah, I'll put it in for good measure. Oops, else return false. All right, that's it. Any questions? I'm gonna stop the share. It'd be funny if I stopped the share and it came back here and everyone was gone. I'd be like, oh, I was talking to myself.
So sad.
Yeah, no.
I used one integer and then I like added if it was open and subtracted if it was closed, and then at the end I saw if it was 0 or bigger. Does that also work?
That totally works for making sure it's balanced. Does that, how did you make sure that you never had more closed than opens? Was that
Because
it was never negative?
If it was negative, yeah.
Yeah, yes, okay, yeah, then that works great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Genius.
Truly genius. I'm gonna stop recording.